Alright, there's your audience members as well as your speech giver, and of course your final audience member, and the floor is yours.
Hello, and thank you for coming today. Today we will be discussing the Roman Empire. As everybody has heard in history, the Roman Empire is one of the vast and most richly empires at the time. Now, even though it fell 1,500 years ago, it is still rich in its legacy of innovations and inventions that are still used and seen around the world today. Now, those innovations and inventions changed the lives of not only the people that lived at the time, but have also changed the lives of people today in this current society. Now, to be able to see that for yourself, you can go to www.ancient.eu.com/Roman Empire. Now, what I want to do is I just want to inform you about what the Roman Empire is famous for. Now, what we'll be discussing today is the inventions and innovations the Romans created back then and that are still available today. Our first topic that we'll discuss is the inventions that they did. First invention that everybody is aware of is the calendar. Believe it or not, Julius Caesar was the first person to create the calendar that is used by today. That was initiated back in 46 BC. It was predominantly used until the Gregorian calendar. And there is very little difference between the Julian calendar and the Gregorian calendar, which is only 0.002%, which means they added an extra date in there somewhere. Concrete was actually began being used by the Romans over 2,100 years ago. Now, that was being used in the Mediterranean area. The recipe is slaked lime, volcanic ash, which they called palanza, which actually helps set quickly for any of the items that they would build underwater. Now, thanks to this recipe, the Pantheon, the Colosseum, and the Roman Forum are still standing today. This information can actually be viewed at www.history.com/news/history. Roads and highways were actually another invention that they had. And as you can see, they were well known for being straight. Now, back in those days, they, of course, didn't have the survey tools that they have now today. So, what they used was called a grama, which is a perfect example of here. They were primarily used for the military, and soldiers were actually the ones who mainly built them. Now, let's just move along to some innovations that the Romans had at that time. There are actually a website out there that shows 10 innovations that the Romans had, and that can be viewed at www.history.com. The first one I will discuss is the aqueducts. They were the most enjoyed innovations of all. Now, the aqueducts supplied the drinking water, were used for the sanitation purposes, and for the water for the baths. They could transport water up to 60 miles away, depending on where they were being built. And for one of the most famous fountains in the world, the Trevi Fountain, it is actually still to this day being supplied water by one of the original aqueducts the Romans built called Aqua Virgo. The next, we'll go into talking about their architecture. This can be found at www.crystallinks.com/Roman Science. Now, they grouped a lot of their styles with the Greeks because the Greeks had a very interesting descriptions on their buildings. They've also borrowed very heavily from the Greeks as well. But unfortunately, they did not have very many ideas in their architectural value until after the end of the Republic. Now, again, I'm mentioning the roads and the highways. They were invented by them, but they also had many innovations by them as well. Some of the roads are the most sophisticated at the time, and they're also still very well used by people today. They supplied them and made them with a combination of dirt, gravel, and bricks. By 200 AD, they actually built 50,000 miles of road. Now, another area we'd like to go is what the modern world uses, according to from the Romans, such as the medical practices, which were advanced at their times. Now, modern advancements during their times have made tremendous advancements over the time periods. Believe it or not, surgical tools were built by them. Their most valuable contribution was battlefield medicine, and the physicians established practices that we still use today. Languages spread actually during the empires. As they conquered them, they integrated their languages into their empire, which is how we've developed our language over the periods. Now let's just go ahead and summarize. The Roman Empire was more than just a conquering country, an empire. It also inspired many cultures to improve the inventions and innovations that they started. Now, if it had not been for them, there's no telling on what or where we would be at this time. But here's the clincher for you. With all of the technology advances in the world that has been since the Roman Empire was established, we as a society should probably learn more if we stop to study their behavior and learn from the determinations and inspirations that they have. Thank you. Is there any questions? Yes.
What are those used for? On the bottom picture.
These right here are some of the medical tools in which they created.
Ooh. Okay.
There's a lot of medical stuff that they created that we still use today.
Very
Forceps.
interesting.
I mean, all sorts of things.
The recipe they use for their roads, the road asphalt, concrete, whatever it's called, is it still used today?
Not in its form. It was classified as a weak form compared to today, but the basic recipe is where they got it from for the modern technology. Is there anything else? Oh, well, then thank you, and I hope you enjoyed it.